I think just different things. I think one, transitioning, it definitely helped my well-being, made me feel aligned with who I am. And then it also, I could then get back into the things that I miss doing. So
Mm.
I got to again be creative. I didn't know if I was going to do any of the things that I do now. I really honestly didn't know if I would be able to, but I have been, and I've done really well, and in some places even better because I'm even more determined to be like, I feel like I've got a second chance. So in
Yeah.
many aspects, like I'm quite mentally strong. Um,
Yeah.
but I think having support from other people, having that level of unconditional love, that also has a direct impact on people's well-being. So
Yeah.
yeah, those things help. So I have a lot of support from home. I have, I've met a lot of good friends over the years, whether it's online or in person. And I also just do different things to look after my well-being, but that's more just,
Mm.
it could be anything from like doing a meditation or working out as well. Fitness has been a big part of me. um,
Mm.
for mental health as well. I find that it anchors me a lot, and I know that I do like very sort of aesthetic things as a model or a bodybuilder, but genuinely underneath all that, it's actually the biggest thing that has like grounded me, no matter what
Yeah.
life has thrown my way over these years, and it's thrown a lot of different things, but it's it's been my anchoring thing, I would say.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Menopause Whilst Black, the podcast that is committed to sharing the menopausal stories of Black people in any stage of menopause. Primarily based in the UK. My name is Karen Arthur. I am your host. I am a broadcaster, an artist, and I am now an author. I'll tell you a little bit more about that at the end of this show. It's not what you think. Anyway, welcome to season 7, episode 5. We have a very special guest for you today. I hope that you are well. I hope that you're safe and you're warm. I hope that you're feeling loved. And I hope that you're ready for this very special episode of Menopause Whilst Black, which heralds a first in our history. I'll stop waffling on. I'll let you get on with it, and I'll see you on the other side. Enjoy. Hello, 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 and welcome to Menopause Whilst Black, the podcast, season 7, episode 5. I'm glad I remembered that because sometimes I get it all wrong. My name is Karen Arthur, and I'm the host of this podcast, obviously. I'm a broadcaster, an artist, and lots of things in between. And this is the podcast that centres the stories of Black people experiencing men in any stage of menopause, primarily based in the UK. My guest today is Cairo Nevitt. Cairo is a Caribbean and English trans man from London and currently a second-year sports psychology student. Cairo was Britain's first openly transgender man to be featured in a mainstream fitness magazine in 2018. And in 2022, Cairo made history again as a trans athlete by competing as a bodybuilder and winning 3 titles: Mr. Model, Mr. Model Pro, and Men's Athletic Physique Champion at 2 of Europe's largest fitness federations. I feel like I need a medal for saying all of that. I'm continuing. Cairo does so much. He is an actor, has made several TV appearances. He's a model, a guest speaker, a personal trainer, and a former head coach, to name just a few. As a trans advocate, Cairo predominantly works as a guest speaker and facilitator on the topics of diversity and inclusion, gender identity, intersectionality, mental health, as well as motivation. Welcome, Cairo.
Hello. Well done, you do deserve a medal for saying all of that.
I was like, I'm trying to welcome you and be all big you up, but actually, I want a medal too. Oh, dear me, honestly. So, Cairo, thank you. Thank you for giving me your time. We're recording this in, where are we, August, and there are some troubling times outside and possibly ahead. So, I appreciate you making some time in your busy day to talk to me. So, Cairo, tell us about yourself. Who are you outside of your title?
Outside of my title, I would say I'm just a creative being. I see myself as sort of like just an artist in, I don't know, many ways. I just have a passion for just, I don't know, like just so many just random things. I enjoy sort of well-being. I enjoy sort of connection with other people and just learning
Mhm.
as well. So yes, I think I'm always, I don't know, I'm always looking to learn and to improve. I'm curious, but also, yeah, super creative, and I love sort of like connection to community as well. That matters to me.
I love that. I love that. That whole connection to community is really important. And I think that, I mean, I know a little bit about of your story and we're going to find out a little bit more, obviously, but that connection is important because it inspires other people as well. Um, yeah, but we'll get in more into that. Tell us about what's your heritage and where are your parents from?
So I'm mixed. So my dad is Caribbean, so St. Lucian and Jamaican, and then my mum is English as well, and I was born here.
Okay. Here is the UK for anybody listening anywhere but here.
It is the UK.
We're international, baby. We are international.
But as a teenager, I also lived in Spain. So all of my secondary years were in Spain. So that's a little bit different. But I came back to the UK at the age of like 15 and a half, just before sort of my GCSEs. And yeah, I've lived here sort of permanently ever since for now.
Oh, okay. All right.
You know,
So you're bilingual.
yeah, so I speak Spanish, like fluent Spanish after living there for all that time.
Oh, that's handy. That's handy.
Yeah.
So where are you based now, and how old are you?
Yes, so I'm based in London, South London, and my age, I'm like, I always lie because I do it with my modelling. But I'll give you
You
my
don't. You don't have to tell me the truth.
uh,
You can tell me what you like, darling. I
what's
mean,
my playing age? How old do you think I am? It could be 25. It could be 30 something. Who knows? I'm in the 30s club. Okay, I'll be honest.
there you go.
The name
There
is
you go. That'll
transparency.
do.
I'm 33. I'll let you have the real age.
Oh well, thank you very much. I appreciate your honesty and your truth and your outing yourself.
What's all the
So,
funding stops at
Cairo.
25? It's harsh out there.
So, Cairo, big question, huge question.
Mhm.
When did you know that you were transgender?
So, when did I know? It's hard. Like some people, basically, the way that I kind of go back in time and reflect about how did I understand that I'm trans is, I guess, when I look back, there was definitely I felt like as a kid, it literally goes back to childhood.
Yeah.
Probably from as early as like 4 or 5. And I remember one time in primary school that, like, you know, when you just, I don't know, you're drawing self portraits and stuff. And
Mm.
in my, I don't know, drawing class, I drew a picture of a boy. But when the other kids were like, "Oh, who is that?" They was like asking me like, why have you drawn a picture of a boy?" I then just sort of drew like a ponytail
Oh,
on
right.
the picture, and I feel like it's weird because you kind of think, well, I forgot about certain things looking back, and it wasn't until I made a decision to actually transition that I had to sort of
Mm.
go back and reflect, and but I think that incident was an example of other people kind of telling you how to be, and even from a very young age, even like 5 or 6, sort of being socially, yeah, like conditioned to not step out of the box, whatever that box
Yeah.
is. In my case, that was,
Yeah.
in relation to being transgender. And then, really, truthfully, I didn't really know loads of transgender people, and because I am a transgender man, a lot of people don't even people are more likely to understand what a transgender woman is, where there's less visibility or less representation.
Mhm.
around transgender men. So
Mhm.
I didn't have any sort of like examples or people to look towards. I didn't even meet or hear or even understood really that transgender men exist until I was around
Mm.
the age of 24. Um,
Wow.
and then about a year later, because I was volunteering for like an LGBT charity that just sort of tackle homophobia and bullying in schools, diversity role models. I was volunteering there for a year, but I met other trans people. Um,
Mm.
and I also was doing like a little documentary where I just was trying to like interview people from like every letter. And obviously, this was back then, it was just the four letters.
Every letter.
There's more.
L,
Yeah, there's more.
G.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, trying to make it more inclusive. So I put out this like call. I don't know, it might have even been on Facebook back then. This was about 8 years
Mm.
ago. But just literally by chance, every single participant that was available on this one day I had of filming was transgender. It's like the most bizarre, like,
Oh my goodness me.
but I really like by the end of that day, it's like so many of their stories like really spoke to me, and it really just highlighted things that I haven't even been able to articulate or just couldn't find the resources to why I felt certain
Yeah.
ways. So that was really like insightful. Usually I say like I use my sort of creative work to tell people things about myself, where in
Mm.
this instance it was like the reverse. It was like my work was trying to tell me something
Mm.
about myself. So that was quite
Mm.
a key moment for me. And then sort of following that, I've begun transitioning, and that all this, it's like what, 7 or 8 years later, and
Well,
here we are now.
so I want to go back to basics. So you were born a girl.
Mhm,
Yes, you're born female.
mhm,
What was, and then you've explained your, that particular incident in primary school, kind of always really knowing that you weren't a girl, so to speak. What was puberty like for you? Because you said you lived in Spain. By the time you got to puberty, you were in Spain, right?
mhm, mhm.
So how did that come about, and what was puberty like for you?
Oh god, it was like I just remember secondary school just being horrendous on so many
Mm,
levels. Yeah, definitely. Like I lived in a small little town, so it was very racist. It was like a village mentality. So from coming from like the city to then being in a little
mm,
village, that was weird. Even just like I don't know, the music was like 10 years old, and it just was just really weird. It was just very
yeah.
like a culture shock, really.
Mm,
And then sort of being a teenager, and then you're starting to go through puberty is an even more like uncertain time. And then obviously I didn't have like the words to say, oh, I'm transgender. I couldn't understand, the way that I understand gender dysphoria now as an adult, or having, done a lot more reading. And but I definitely sort of puberty the first time around. I just kind of really strongly remembering like I don't want this to be happening. Like all the other girls in my class was like, oh my god, I'm growing up into a woman and I'm blossoming and all this stuff. And I was just like, I sort of hid in t-shirts and beanie hats when I think about that time. Like I really didn't want. I didn't want to change.
yeah.
And I couldn't really understand why I felt so anti puberty at the time, but obviously now it's because it was giving me gender dysphoria. And I just remember truthfully being very like disassociated from my body and very depressed, like really depressed during my teenage years, and just very like a recluse, really. Like I barely even like spoke to people. It was just like I was trying to be invisible
Mm,
as much as I
mm,
possibly could. So I just remember it not being, I didn't enjoy it at all. And then obviously like just with hormones and like actually just having like mood swings and being
yeah.
like a stroppy teenager. Like that's what was happening, and just getting like loads of spots and then not, enjoying that either. So it just was I think
Mm,
it's a hard time for, anyone. Um
yeah.
Definitely
It does sound horrendous.
the extra layer
It does sound horrendous. Yeah.
of being trans. I definitely did not enjoy it the first time round.
Where was so you were living with your mum or your dad? Or
I was
both?
with my mum, so I've been raised
Right.
by my mum.
So what was your mum? How was your relationship with your mum? Did she notice? Was she able to support you? have you had a conversation about her? You know, have you had conversations about it since? What was going on? Because I asked that because I have two daughters and they're now your age actually. But I'm trying to think about how I would support my child as
Mm.
they were having this time, not necessarily knowing what was going on. How did she support you, or did she?
Yeah, sorry. Obviously, today there's riots in the UK. In case you don't notice when this comes out, so if you hear the sirens, it's that the world is in a crazy place.
It's
So
fine.
I expect more. But yeah, in terms of like my mom, we have a really good relationship. We always really
Okay.
have, and we still do now. I'm the oldest of four, so my mom like thought she had four girls. um, so I've got three younger sisters. So
Right.
up, I don't know, there was a lot of us, and all of like my sisters, we all have very different personalities and stuff.
Mm,
We're very our own people, and that's maybe a lot of people comment on that as compared to other siblings. But
mm,
I definitely feel my mum sort of could see that I was maybe different, or like I handled puberty at least different to my sisters did, and
mhm.
I don't know, maybe it just seemed like from the outside that I was just sort of generally maybe depressed more. Um, so I felt like my mum did support me, but because she didn't really know what was going on and I couldn't even tell her because I didn't also
Yeah.
really put everything together, it was kind of hard in that sense. So I've always felt her support, but it was just a situation where it's not like I didn't come out as trans at that age. It just
Yeah.
was more like, I don't know, she'd just check in and see how I'm sort of generally doing,
Yeah.
and sort of encourage me to. I remember doing like I was failing like everything in secondary school,
Mm,
literally had to repeat like every single year. Um, some of it was because there was a language barrier, but then it just was like I was being bullied. It just was really a mental time. But I used to like drama before I went to Spain, so I remember her like encouraging me to like find a class or sort of things to do. I enjoyed playing sports, like
yeah.
in the playground or just like in the
Mm,
park. So I think she tried to encourage me to also find little things that I enjoy. So that was kind of handy at the time.
mm.
It just was, yeah, it just was hard to say what. So I didn't get maybe as much support, but it's one of them situations. So it's like if you don't know, then what can you
Yeah.
do? Like
Know what she's
everybody doesn't
supporting.
know. So
Yeah. She just loves her daughter at the time, I suppose, and she's supporting as best
yeah,
she knew.
everyone's doing the best that they can and with
Yeah.
the information that we have. Obviously,
Yeah.
like since then, when I did come out as trans, my mum's been very supportive, and you know, she's like, looking back, you were very different. You was, you it's funny because I didn't go to like a UK secondary school. I didn't have to wear like gendered uniforms. I didn't have to do that in
Right.
Spain. Um,
Yeah.
and kind of growing up, there wasn't like really clear gender roles in our household because I don't know. I guess like because my mum was sort of doing everything,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
In a way, it was like I was brought up to be. I don't know. We like my mom wanted the girls that she raised to be like, well, you can do whatever. You don't,
Yeah.
that's like outdated. And also,
Yeah. Yeah.
even now, like even if she did realize that I was her son, like earlier on, I still would have been sort of brought up the same way and expected
Yeah.
to do the dishes or do
Yeah.
help out with the cooking and so
As it
like,
should be.
always rounded. So I never really had like as a kid, I didn't have like clashes with gender because it was very sort of
Mm,
free. It wasn't like these
yeah.
clear things that you had to do because you're a boy or you had to do because you was a girl.
Yeah.
But I definitely coming back from like secondary school and kind of getting into drama more seriously and going up for like female roles and trying to play all these different female characters. I just remember like a few times like just really not connecting and not really understanding like
Mm,
even just looking at my peers and even my like female friends and just being like I just don't feel the same or I don't it just is really hard to explain but
yeah.
like obviously looking back now it makes more sense. um
Yeah.
so yeah.
It's interesting because I watched something on YouTube from when you were a woman and you're acting. And so it's like an extra layer. I went in, babe, when I did my research. Yeah, and so it's like an extra layer of acting when you're kind of doing those roles. So you said when I transitioned, so you came back. I'm trying to get it in my head. So you came back from Spain. All of you came back from
Yeah, we
Spain,
all came back
I'm
from
assuming,
Spain.
and then you went into secondary school. You did A levels, yada yada blah blah. None of that.
I was like,
None of that.
well, technically,
Help me, Cairo. Help me.
I'll tell you the truth. Basically, I didn't. I came back. I was like, I might have been 16 or just before 16. My birthday's in November, and
Mm.
basically, no secondary school would accept me. So I literally became like a secondary school dropout because the schools didn't. They were
Right.
like, we haven't done the work, so we don't have a place for you here. And I know like so many schools care about their like report sheet. So I became so, like I literally by like the schools got rejected and I
Oh,
became a secondary school dropout at the age of 16. So I just like we came back when we came back to the UK, we stayed with my nan and she used to run a pub. So I literally just would do the cleaning there, and then
mm,
I think I was too young to do the bar work, but I just did that, just working. And then
mm,
when I was about 17, I just any like free course that was available, I just sign up, whether it was like photography, whether it was like
yeah.
anything. And then I had to literally beg my college to let me in because they were like, oh, it's a bit of a risk. You don't have any GCSEs, like, and they couldn't, for all they know, it could have been for bad behavior and all these different things. So it was like I literally begged them to take a chance on me. So I did like national
Mm,
diploma. Or I did, I think, somewhere whatever the BTEC thing is before that.
yeah.
So I literally went from like having no qualifications and being at the bottom of my class to by the time I finished my national diploma, I literally was like top of my class with a triple distinction and like that, yeah,
I love this.
just had that vision of like I can't
Yeah.
let this define me, and that isn't a true just because I don't have the paperwork. It's not a reflection of my work ethic or my goals and ambitions. So yeah, that was so I came back, I did that for a couple of years. And yeah, I can't remember what he was going to ask me, but I think
So
it was
so first of
straightforward.
all, I wanted to acknowledge how difficult that must have been
Mm,
in the sense that you'd already had a pretty shit time, at school in Spain, and then you're uprooted and you're brought back to the UK. You're living with your nan. No school will accept you, and often that can really mess with our self-esteem
mhm,
and mess with our motivation. So I think it's inspirational and powerful. One, that you're a motivational speaker now, but also that it's amazing, it's great, and it's important for other people to realize that those bits of paper do not define us,
mhm.
and those qualifications do not define us. And props to the college you said, or basically who you wore down, and and got you into the college so that you could show your creativity and you could show how talented you are. So you get to 18. When did you transition? Because I want to move on to
Yeah. So
suppose knowing more about how you got to where you are now.
yeah, so basically, once I started doing my performing arts stuff, I went to college for, I was probably in education for about 3 years. Um,
Mm,
and then after that, I was just working, made some of my own projects. And basically, I was just like living and breathing, like anything to do with performing and like putting myself out there. I was doing
yeah.
it. And I felt like my career was everything to me. And I did some filming, ironically, in Spain because I was translating. I was translating, but I had like a little role in this thing. But basically, I had to run up and down all these like wonderful landscapes. But it was like really rocky, and off the
Mm,
back of that, I got a knee injury. Um, Sort of I kind of carried on, but it kind of got me a little bit later down the line when I was
mm,
about 25. So I basically was written off work because I had a knee injury, had to wait for physio for about like 4 months just to get my
oh
first
gosh.
appointment. And during that time, at my lowest point, I was literally bedbound because I couldn't bend my knee to go up and down
Oh,
stairs. So I was like really physically like not in a good place, and then mentally I wasn't in a good place. And just before this had happened, I was doing that little mini documentary thing where I interviewed all these trans people. So it was like all this happened, and then sort of at the same time, because you had all this time to be still for the first time in my adult life
Oh, that sounds very familiar.
ever.
Yeah.
You had to have injuries, like I was written off work for a year. Like that's how like I was completely burnt out. But during this time, that's when I started to realize that I'm trans. And it just was like a weird coincidence of people that I had met, conversations, and just, connecting, and
Everything kind of came
everything
together.
came together.
Yeah.
And at first, my initial reaction was like to be in denial, because I felt like I spent so much time, like, especially if you think of like coming back from Spain to starting this new life, to having no qualifications, to getting all these top marks, to paid to be in front of the camera, how you look, how you sound, your casting type, all these things is literally like all these external things. um,
Yeah.
do you know how much headshots cost, show reels, all this? Like, I spent so much money.
Yes, I do.
I didn't even have
all that money.
All that money that I hustled and didn't even have, to then be like, I'm like, what's going to happen if I transition? Am I even going to work again in general? Because like everything I read at the time in the media was terrifying. It felt like I couldn't even work in any job, let alone my passion. So it was just a really hard time. So I was about 25 when this was all happening. And by the time I was 26, I came out to my mum first and my sisters. And that was, they were really
Did they
supportive.
react? How I always how did they react?
My mum was like, when we initially had the first conversation, like it wasn't like this storybook moment, and we have a good relationship, but at the time, basically I had sort of started to get rid of some of my clothes, and I went shopping, and basically I bought like loads of boxes. But obviously, because I live in a house that's only a female household, like that was a really obvious change. And obviously I hadn't like wore makeup at all, even though I'd only do it to keep up appearances or like for castings and stuff. But it just was, there was very visible things that was different. And then every single clothing was like from the men's section. So I was like, what is going on? Like there isn't a man in this house, like somewhere. It's me. But like she was just like, something's going on with you, and I don't understand like what's happening. And I think I was just actually surprised that I mean, I don't know why I was surprised upon reflection, but at the time I think I wasn't ready for her to sort of ask me these questions. So I didn't want to talk about it. And I was very like, to be honest, really stroppy, and just, I was like, I don't want to talk about it. Went to my room and like didn't want to talk to her. Even though I was like 26 at the time, but it's like, you just go, you revert back sometimes. But then like the next day, I think she like came into my room, and I think she like brought me a coffee or something. I was like, oh, can we like talk? And she was just like saying that she doesn't care. Like she just loves me for me, and she wants me to be happy and healthy, and it doesn't matter. Like she's like, I don't know the answers. Like I don't know anything about this. And I remember at one point, like when she was thinking, she's like, oh my God, like the signs have been there your whole life, really. Like maybe I should have tried to do something sooner. But she was like, back in the 90s, like the only reference that there was about like people being transgender was like, I think on the Oprah show. But at that point, it was like saying it's a mental health problem. And like it was really, it might not have been a good thing, or you would have had to deal with that stuff. Obviously I was like, Mum, I don't expect you're not to blame, or you can't like, beat yourself up about it. I'm me, and I'm only just joining the dots together now. So like, I don't expect you to be psychic, or like have this awareness about things that it's new territory for everybody. So it felt really good, like to know that like it doesn't matter what other people say, like in my house, or like with my nearest and dearest, I've got that like unconditional love. And I think that really does make a huge difference in going forward. And and my sisters were always like, we have a really close relationship where we do like wind each other up. They've always like laughed at me for being muscly and stuff. But my little sister was really cute. She was like, when I told her, she cried. And then she was just
Mm.
like, oh, I've always wanted a big brother. I've always saw
Oh,
as the big brother, because I've got other sisters and they've been more like the big sister role,
yeah.
whatever that means. But she was like, you've always felt like a big brother to me, and that was really, really sweet. I wasn't expecting
Mm.
her to say that, but
That's
it's
beautiful.
true. But it's nice that she could also recognize that too.
And what a testament to your relationship with your mother, your family,
Hmm.
but I suppose particularly your mother, because she started the conversation, which was, okay, I'm going to make him a cup of coffee and then I'm going to sit him down, then we're going to have a. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think that
avoiding the
because so many families don't have that, and so many people who transition, don't have that. So what does transitioning mean, or what
transition.
does it mean for you?
I mean, it's a broad term. It means,
I know.
I was like, yeah, it's like, I can't speak for every single trans person out there. Disclaimer.
Speak for yourself.
But for myself, for me, like, what does it mean? I think for me, it's like, no, I'm not going to get into my poetry deep thinking. That's too much. Um, but I think for me, basically, when I reference it in my journey, I see it as like a beginning, a
Mm,
new sort of chapter into living authentically. Um,
mm,
and I guess there was decisions to be made, and
mm,
there's many ways to transition for people that might be new to the concept of trans people. But
mm,
for me, it was about, starting my life as I am now, living authentically. Some of that, like logistical things came about, that like legally changing my name or asking people to, use the right pronouns for me, and to have access to hormones, um,
mm.
and having those different options. um
Yeah.
so there's different, like, you've got socially, you've got your social transition, you might have like a medical transition, you could have a legal transition. There's many layers to transitioning, and no, every trans person might, some people might only, do the social thing, they might not have medical
Mm,
intervention, or they might ask you, it's very open to what that is. But for me, it was important that I also went down the medical road to transition, because I wanted to, I had a lot of gender dysphoria with how I looked and how I
mm,
sounded. And then also with thinking of my career, I also was like, well, I know I'm never playing a woman again. So where does that leave me?
yeah.
I
Yeah.
need to, without the hormones, I needed to essentially go through a second puberty. So I have been through puberty twice. um,
Fun.
but after the first one was so bad, it was like, actually, obviously there's pros and cons to things, but I was a lot happier in the process, or at least it felt like this is how it was supposed to be the first time round. So it was kind of healing in a way.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's never fun to get spots, or hormones are really powerful things, as we'll probably discuss in the rest of the episode. But it felt at least right the second time
Yeah.
around.
Right. Thank you for that. Who taught you about menopause?
Oh, I don't even know. I don't think anyone did. The truth is, I don't. Yeah, like, when I think about it, because of the film that I did, the queer menopausal film, How We Met.
Which is where I came across you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I remember being like asked to do that, and really just sitting there like thinking, actually, I don't think anyone's really spoken to me about that, because, you know, I don't know, like my age. And then obviously, as I've transitioned, I'm a man, and people forget that there are also men,
Mm,
trans men, who, their journey is different, and actually, you can, like, these two things can exist. So yeah, the truth is, I didn't really know anything about it, but I say learn. I still don't know enough.
no, it's
I'm
okay.
not even going to pretend. But
But
also,
I suppose what you need to learn is in relation to you.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think now I'm more comfortable in my skin, and I'm more confident in general, and I'm at peace, yeah, with myself, and like I know who I am. I'm comfortable with sort of everything, really. So I'm in a place where I'm able to have different conversations or even to read certain material, because I feel like before, some of these things I just would like much more rather pretend that it's not happening to me, because it would give me like gender dysphoria. So
Mm.
didn't I also didn't want to know. I wasn't, I don't know, it felt like there was a barrier in feeling comfortable to access maybe even
Yeah.
that stuff. So yes, I don't really know that much, but I do know kind of from having begun hormone treatment, which in my case is having testosterone. Um, and I've been on testosterone for about 7 years now. Um,
Okay.
that like in the first year, I definitely was getting menopausal symptoms.
Mm.
I was like, for example, for the worst sort of thing for me was the hot flushes, and
Mm.
um, how much it affected me, like day to day. Like sometimes I'd have to, come off the shop floor and
Mm.
literally remove myself, and like couldn't sort of work through it. In
Oh,
some,
because you were working in retail at the time.
yeah, that at that point I was working in retail,
Mm.
so yeah, it was.
And could you talk to anybody about it?
That's
Like,
the thing, like.
did you get the job as transitioning as a man, or how did that work?
Yeah, so I got the job. It was my first job since I transitioned, so I was
Okay.
okay, right, I've got to go back. Well, not got to go back, but like I also, because I was off ill,
Mm.
it just sort of came around. It's like, right, I'm ready to kind of go back to work. So I found a new job. So it's sort of like a clean slate. But I
Yeah.
do remember going into like the recruitment with my passport wasn't up to date. Like I've only just started. Um, you can't just get a passport immediately. So I've
No.
only been like socially transitioning for a couple of months.
Mm.
I remember being really sort of nervous for that interview, and I know I'm good at like I can, like most jobs I know I'm a good candidate no matter what it is. I'm very, I work
Yeah.
hard. I've got, I'm confident in that sense. But I remember being quite nervous because I was like, I feel like I'm doing fraud. I'm not,
Yeah.
but my documents don't match, and I
Yeah.
don't know how they're going to think and behave around the fact that I'm also transgender. And that company was really good. They didn't make a big deal out of it. Like they will listen to me a lot, and there was gendered uniform, but I didn't have to wear, I could wear the men's uniform from the get go,
Mm.
even without being on hormones yet and stuff. And yeah, they just really listened. So I felt like behind, like back of house, I had a lot of support. But there
Mm.
definitely was points where, like, I think at that point I still did have my periods at the time, because I
Mm.
was starting testosterone, but that didn't actually stop for me for like a year, which is quite unusual. But that just,
Mm.
was the luck of the draw in my case. You get good things, other things it's different. But
Mm.
so I think having conversations around that was more challenging, because I didn't feel that comfortable with all of my managers to be like, hey,
Yeah.
the reason why I'm not coming into work today is because I've got like really bad period cramps, or like I feel really ill, or like, explaining why I'm having hot flushes, like,
Mm.
so I think I did have, there was one or two like female members of staff that um, we had a better connection, or like I felt like I could talk to them about those things. But
Yeah.
it was hard, because like I felt like I couldn't always to everybody be truly honest about what I was experiencing. And then also because a lot of them in that type of job, it's like tourism, and a lot of the staff are quite young. So
Mm. Yeah.
even just the managers were not like, they're not thinking about menopause. Like,
Mm.
there isn't many
Mm.
other staff members who probably, as far as I'm aware, were also going through that. So that was that in itself was like, people have a weird idea that it has to happen at a certain age, and
Paid.
people
And to women.
and to women. So
Yeah.
it just was not what they were going to be expecting, which means it's harder to facilitate those conversations, and also for
Yeah.
you to get what you need. Obviously, I was okay, and the manager I had was good, but it
Mm.
does make it tricky.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, everything is new territory, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like you're navigating new territory and having to feel you need to find people who you feel comfortable with to allow them to support you, you
Yeah,
know?
because it's
So there was
personal
it
as well.
sounds like there was a lot going on. So did you discuss your menopause with anybody else? Did you speak to, I don't know, were there other people, friends, for example, your sisters, your mum?
Not really, like, only so, like, me and my mum now, um, now we've discussed it, but, like, in the beginning,
Yeah.
not really. It was more like, I guess, because when I started hormones, like, there was an element of excitement because I was transitioning. So for me, it was more like, oh my God, like, I don't know. I was caught up on like all the other physical changes, like, oh my God, like my voice has dropped, or
Mm,
I didn't really grow facial hair in the first year, or even it's only been more recently, but like just any change that was occurring, that was more the focus. So that's what I would
yeah,
talk about.
yeah,
I didn't really give it much attention, like unless it was like in my face and I couldn't ignore it
yeah,
type of thing. I wasn't giving it the attention, so I didn't really discuss that, except for when I was at work and I was like, I actually can't carry on like this. I feel like I'm going to faint if I don't see
yeah.
something. It was happening a lot, like, that was, I couldn't ignore the symptoms basically. Um,
Mm,
but kind of more recently, because my mum's basically had cancer, and in the last sort of 2 years, and in the
mm,
last like 6 months, she had a hysterectomy. Not 6 months, like very recently, basically.
yeah,
So now that she's like recovered, we've been talking about like HRT, and
yeah,
and it's weird because it's like, even though I know about testosterone, but because I've learned a lot about hormones in general, it's interesting that actually I have information to share with her because of
yeah,
sort of transitioning and did talking to some
yeah,
endocrinologists um, along the way over the years.
yeah. And have your doctors been supportive? Do you feel that you had enough information, or have you found a lot of stuff out as you've gone along, or has it been a combination?
Um, yes and no. So
Okay.
essentially, basically, the general GPs were really like, initially, basically, when I went to talk about being transgender, I had one particular GP, but he actually runs the surgery, so it's not even like a new person. It's like,
Mm, mm.
the most probably one of the most important people running the surgery. He basically turned around and said that like trans is trending. And that people who transition are not happier, like matter of fact. And that's when I was asking to be referred to the gender clinic. And obviously that day, just literally pure coincidence, it was Transgender Day of Visibility. So,
Oh my goodness.
which I didn't even know what that meant at the time. So upon
Mm,
reflection, oh, look, it's a sign, so you're supposed to do this. But it was really like, wow, that's your answer. And because I've been doing like the volunteering stuff, even though I wasn't confident, I had no self-esteem at that point,
mm,
but I just
mm.
knew it wasn't correct that you can just say like those
No.
big statements without some sort of backing of evidence. Like, and I didn't even.
Yeah, that's his opinion.
I was like, that's definitely opinion.
Yeah.
So I just said like, basically, he was saying that he wasn't going to let me go to the gender clinic if I was to transition. It was like you can only go to like talk, like for counselling, but it just was really messed
Oh my goodness
up.
me.
So I got.
Is that common? Do you know if that's a common response, or was that the luck of your draw, so
Um,
to speak?
Maybe not like word for word, like,
Yeah.
but generally speaking, there are a lot of GPs that kind of become gatekeepers to allow
Mm,
trans patients to access the
mm,
healthcare that they need. Um,
mm,
and I thought that, one, it's illegal to do that. Well, it is illegal to do that, but it's just crazy to me that people would literally intervene like that, because it's
mm.
so damaging. You already have to wait a long time. So basically, I waited for a year on the waiting list, and then I got a letter one day, and it basically discharged me from the NHS service. And on the letter, there's like a few boxes, and one of the boxes was like, your GP has failed to cooperate, which the fact that they have a box for that category is quite telling that
Oh my
it's
goodness
that
me.
bad. And it still can be a problem. Obviously, there are some really nice GPs, and I've had really nice nurses, and I've also worked with the NHS around these things, and
Mm,
there are people that want to do right, and that's good. But in my personal experience, it hasn't always been good. So I didn't feel like I could go to my GP and really, really talk about trans stuff. It's like I wanted to say the least as possible in case they mess up my hormone prescription, and
yes.
like
Yeah.
intervene and mess things up. So it didn't really feel, generally speaking, like a safe space to do that. Or as soon as you say you're transgender, they're like, "Oh, I don't know, I don't like, I'm not a
Yeah,
specialist."
they back away.
Out, they don't even listen. But
Mm,
so basically, I went private, and they're really good. But because I went private, I spent so much money, and then I moved out of London and stuff. So basically, I didn't go back. Like I did a few checkups, but there was like a gap for a couple of years where I
okay.
could have just gone back. But there's a lot of things happening. But even
Yeah.
financially,
There's a whole pandemic
the whole pandemic,
as well.
there was like, I moved out from, like, it just was, there was a lot of life happening.
Yeah.
And it's hard to keep on top of all these appointments. That's just true, because in the middle, I went to America, and I had, you know top surgery, so there was just a lot. But basically, if I'd have gone back and checked in truthfully, he would have, like, my endocrinologist would have been able to support me better. So that was kind of
Yes.
my fault. But and I did see him recently. I saw him this year.
I I
um
saw that. I'm pretty sure I saw that on your stories.
yeah, yeah,
When
like,
you said
little
on your
updates.
Instagram stories about you'd gone back after, and I was
Yeah,
like,
I was
I
like,
was thinking, I'm sure they're supposed to have really regular checkups.
yeah,
Let me get this right.
yeah, no, it's hard. I mean, it's hard, especially because I'm a freelancer. But
Yeah.
it's like, once you start transitioning, like, medically, I don't think I even realized, like, how much you have to be on top of your appointments and how many appointments there are. And
Mm.
depending on, like, your work life or even your social life, it just gets a lot. And like,
And was that
and
still private,
that's
by the
still
way?
private. So as well, it's like
So
financial.
you're paying for every nice.
Every appointment,
Oh,
every letter. I don't pay for, like, I have shared care with my actual prescription. Like,
mm,
I don't pay for the testosterone
yeah.
itself. So that's under shared care, because they've been really good at writing to the GP and getting that in place. But generally
Mm,
speaking, any changes, I have to go back, and that costs a lot of money every single time. Um,
mm,
and obviously, like, I've done, like, blood work and things like that with, like, other smaller trans clinics, and you know
yeah.
with those things. But it's not, I guess they're concerned about other health markers that they don't
Yeah.
really, up until, as far as I'm aware, they don't really talk about menopause either. So
Mm,
there's a lot of, like, gaps in, um, we don't really get included as trans men or trans individuals. But also, and even, like, it's not really just being trans. Like, I know that women also don't, like, menopause is like a taboo, so it's not
mm,
spoken about just anyway.
yeah. And it's even less spoken about
And
if
even
you're
less, like, it's
trans as well.
non-existent.
Goodness me. Yeah. What else has helped? So you're on hormones, you're on testosterone. Are you on any other medication that helps you
Mhm.
with your transition? No, you're making a
Mhm.
face.
No, I don't want anything else. No, it's just testosterone, really. Like,
Mm,
obviously, I'm a fitness person, so, like, I eat, generally speaking, quite well. I look
mm,
after myself. I take my vitamins, and some of these things can help with
yeah,
all kinds of stuff. So everything is linked. Um,
yeah,
I do. I put a lot of emphasis on those different things. But yeah, it's just, I just have testosterone. I don't have anything to. I mean, I don't know what they would give you, but but
yeah. No, I just
yeah,
want.
I
So
point that to
in
adjust
all of
level.
this, sorry, I was going to say in all of this, we talked a lot about the physical,
Mhm,
and we talked about your mental well-being going through puberty, and feeling depressed and that kind of thing. In terms of having support mentally
mhm.
and with working through what was going on with your body dysmorphia and that kind of thing, Did you get any help?
Mm.
Does it come with it? Is it a package? Did you have to go? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
What it seems to me like, um, moving from one gender to another, let's just say,
Mhm,
would be something that would also need the support of mental health services. And I'm wondering whether that is something that you were ever offered
mhm.
or explored.
Yeah, so I think basically, if you were to transition through the NHS route, they
Mm.
have a lot of like psychologists, um, but some people say it's actually they're not that helpful, truthfully. Like sometimes it's
Okay.
just an interrogation. But
Mm.
because I transitioned privately, they kind of give you like a general psychology assessment. But
Okay.
because being transgender is no longer under the Mental Health Act, you don't have to have therapy per se.
Right.
So it's by like
Okay.
case by case. So generally speaking, once I was able to access the care that I needed, I
Mm.
didn't really feel depressed. Like I felt a lot
Okay.
happier.
Yeah, of course.
So a lot of things change, or like there was day to
Mm.
day things like learning how to socialize all over again. But generally
Mm.
speaking, my well being kind of improved. Not
Yeah.
immediately because it's
Yeah.
not that way for anybody. But it just already started to improve sort of from that
Yeah.
point onwards. Um,
Yeah.
and generally speaking, I haven't had a lot of pushback for being trans. Um, Not really. And even when I have,
Mm.
it's like I've just called people out, so it hasn't had the same levels of like emotional um,
Yeah.
toll on me as to other people
Yeah.
who don't have any support. And it's like day in and day out, like that's different because it's how you get treated that can trigger
Yeah.
mental
Yeah.
health issues. But yeah, I think for me, I think just different things. I think one, transitioning, it definitely helped my well-being, made me feel aligned with who I am. And then it also, I could then get back into the things that I miss doing. So
Mm.
I got to again be creative. I didn't know if I was going to do any of the things that I do now. I really honestly didn't know if I would be able to, but I have been, and I've done really well, and in some places even better because I'm even more determined to be like, I feel like I've got a second chance. So in
Yeah.
many aspects, like I'm quite mentally strong. Um,
Yeah.
but I think having support from other people, having that level of unconditional love, that also has a direct impact on people's well-being. So
Yeah.
yeah, those things help. So I have a lot of support from home. I have, I've met a lot of good friends over the years, whether it's online or in person. And I also just do different things to look after my well-being, but that's more just,
Mm.
it could be anything from like doing a meditation or working out as well. Fitness has been a big part of me. Um,
Mm.
for mental health as well, I find that it anchors me a lot. And I know that I do like very sort of aesthetic things as a model or a bodybuilder, but genuinely underneath all that, it's actually the biggest thing that has like grounded me, no matter what
Yeah.
life has thrown my way over these years, and it's thrown a lot of different things. But it's it's been my anchoring thing, I would say.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Do you have any other debilitating, worrying, fascinating menopause symptoms, or is hot flushes your number one?
I don't think there's something else. I think really like that's what I remember the most. Yeah,
Mm.
that's I think. So I didn't even know what all the other symptoms were actually. It's only watching the film.
Yeah, because this is the thing, and because menopause research is, it's ongoing. So depending on who you speak to, you might hear 34 symptoms, you might talk to somebody else, there might be 64 symptoms. Some people might be talking about physical symptoms like weight gain and you know um, vaginal atrophy and itchy skin and that kind of thing, and hair loss. And other people will be talking about mental well-being and brain fog and
Mm.
that kind of thing. So
Yeah, it's
but I can imagine, yeah, go on.
yeah, it's just I think it's hard to say because some of those symptoms would also be because I'm going through puberty again,
Yeah.
and the testosterone. So I was expecting to have weight gain, or I was
Yeah.
expecting, you know, some of the other things. It's like it's hard to say which one is what. if that makes sense.
Yeah, because it's really interesting because you went through you went through menopause, you're going through menopause.
I mean, for now, I think since my levels have got updated recently,
Yeah,
I I feel like maybe it's sort of stopped some of the
right.
symptoms.
Okay.
So I
But
don't.
you're also going through puberty.
I mean, yeah, but I guess it's a weird one. It's hard to say because I feel like basically male puberty is longer than women's
Yes.
puberty. So
Yeah.
because of that, it's like I probably have gone through most of, I don't know,
Yeah.
the milestones. Uh,
Yeah.
so I probably won't really change very much when
Right.
you're
I see.
speaking like physically in terms of as the hormone treatment, except for maybe my hair. My hair is thinning. It has been for a while, and that's I don't enjoy that. But I that's fine. I know
I don't enjoy that.
I don't enjoy that kind of what if I have a magic wand, um, but it's part of the process, and I feel like in society now, it's like it's very quick to try and like just have the best of everything, and it's like just
Mm,
understanding that every decision there's like there's some things you gain, there's some things you lose.
yeah.
But for me, it's like I've got facial hair, and like other guys that are in their 30s, some of them already have their whole hair loss, and I've been lucky, even 7 years in to only really
Yeah.
start to have that now. So it's like
Yeah.
you just make peace with different things. And worst case scenario, go to Turkey, get a hair transplant. We'll see. But but like I don't know, it depends what I'm doing. But it's I think it's but I feel like now I feel like every so often in the last couple of years there's been like another turning point where I feel like I filled out a little bit more or my voice has dropped again. But I do feel like a lot of my sort of the effects of testosterone has sort of steadied out a bit
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Obviously, I am changing the type of testosterone that I am on, which since having
Why?
one because I basically had to have my shot every 21 days
Mm.
instead of 30, which was not.
Oh, so it's an injection.
Yeah, so it's an injection.
Right. Okay. You went all American on me there. Calm
Yeah,
down.
yeah, don't ask. Yeah, but it's an injection. So that was basically because like my periods were coming back, which isn't
Mm,
doesn't usually happen. So
mm.
I had to have it more frequently. We couldn't change the dose. Um,
Yeah.
but I've been doing that for like 7 years. But also because sometimes I travel away for work, it's really hard to hold on to have an appointment every 21 days. And sometimes if a GP
Yeah.
is closed,
Yeah.
it's not as easy to access another place to have the injection. So just logistically, sometimes it's been a bit of a nightmare. And then if I do miss
Mm.
it, that's when I will get symptoms like spotting,
Right.
and cramps and all these different things that it's like I don't want that to come back.
Yeah.
So for those reasons, so now I'm going to be on libido, which is every like 12 weeks. So
Okay.
it should be better.
Mm.
I just didn't want to I personally just was happy to sort of keep it was working, so I didn't want to sort of keep changing different
Mm. Mm.
medications. But I think it
Mm.
will be better to have that, and it's sort of a
Right.
smaller dose, and it's every like 3 months as opposed to like 3 weeks. So
You sound like you've got a real handle on moving into this version of you, if you like, not just in terms of the physical stuff, but also where your head is and your support. I know you haven't done that on your own. And but I know you've done a lot of it yourself. You've made conscious decisions about how you show up in the world. Do you have a routine at all? Is there a is that does that grounding come from things that you do every day, for example?
I think I I change my routine every so often. So I have things that I do. Um, so I always go back to like what are my needs, like what do I need. So rather than just kind of jumping on Instagram and going, oh well, like obviously it's a great place, well I say it's a great place, it can be a good place to start like general well-being tips, but I
Yeah.
think it's like what gives you energy, what drains your energy. It's like
Mm.
having a reflection time to what when I'm a student, that I have different needs to when I'm in the summer freelancing is very different.
Yeah.
Because I have to sit down and be like, try and be academic. And for me, I'm like, I don't even know how I'm doing a science degree. But I'm an artist,
And here we are.
and here we are. But so for me, I think definitely, like I said, working out is something that I do on a regular basis. I think basically walking, I would say walking, moving your body every day,
Mm.
something that I started doing that in the pandemic, and ever since, like, I've realized how good it is for like my mental well-being, and
Yeah.
getting into nature, getting off. I do have a social media presence and whatever, but I really am like, we need to get off the screens. We need to move,
Yeah.
look at the sunlight, look at the
Mm.
stars, connect to the sea, like the elements. So for
Yeah.
me, some of those things, like individual practices, I used to do like meditations when I was 18, when I just started like doing loads of intense sort of training and stuff with acting.
Mm.
It was busy, it was fast, so having something to slow down and be still for a minute, and I got back into that recently. Yoga as well. Like, I need the flexibility personally for some of the posing
Yeah.
routines, but like they are things that help. But I think it's good
Mm.
to have an idea of like, what do you need? Like, do you need something that's upbeat because you actually feel quite like deflated and you need it to like give you like energy, or
Mm.
actually like,
Mm.
are you running around like a headless chicken and you just need to like do some breath work?
Yeah.
Just sit
Yeah.
down, sit down and let things be,
Mm.
surrender. So I feel like, yeah, I definitely do a couple of those things, but I always, every couple of months, like I look at my life and what's coming up, or how my mood or my energy levels are, and I tailor it accordingly, because we evolve. Everybody does, not just trans people. Like, we're always evolving.
That's very disciplined of you, Cairo. So many people do not do that. Yes, we do evolve, but
Mhm.
sometimes we cling on to our old selves with our cold
Yeah,
hands.
yeah. There's a
That's a really good tip. I hadn't thought of that. I don't do that consciously. I am aware of embracing growth, but the idea of consciously going, right, what's going well, what's going, interesting, interesting. You're a coach, aren't you? I feel like you're coaching me.
no. Well, I do. I do well-being. Like, I started out as a fitness coach, but
Yeah.
um, I am also a wellness coach, and
Mm.
I work with loads of different groups of people that really, yeah, like they need that level of kind of self-care. They need that, like, not just self-care, but just like that. Um, I don't know if it's permission to be still, to breathe, and
Mm.
just to let things go, because the world can be
Hard.
fast
It's
paced,
hard, isn't it? Because
heavy.
society is teaching
Society's,
us to
yeah.
run around, like you said, headless chickens. So, and sometimes when you sit and go silent, what comes in is guilt at all the things you should be doing,
Mhm,
or FOMO,
mhm,
you know.
exactly.
So,
And
yeah,
I think also, now that I'm at uni and I do sports psychology, my dissertation probably is going to be something to do with burnout. And I have
right.
experienced burnout as a performer. I've experienced it as
Mm.
an athlete, and um, I see it in workplaces as well. So I think we're conditioned to feel guilty about pausing, but actually, like, I've found, and I've sort of been doing experiments on myself with my little Whoop device, making sure I've got it literally for recovery. So a lot of my fitness gadgets are like to make sure I'm doing more steps, or how can I improve this lift. Where this is about actually going, actually, I do a lot of stuff. Am I sleeping enough? Because that's something I
Yeah,
used to sacrifice all the time, but
yeah,
it's not good. Some of these things, it can be temporary. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, but it's
yeah.
not normalizing it. That can't be every day, because that's how we get ill. That's how we get injured, and mentally as
That's
well.
right.
We suffer, and it's not fair. It's not good.
Yeah,
So
you're absolutely right.
yeah, I do. I've been going to like sauna and doing cold plunges and stuff like that, like once a week. That's sort of my new thing that I'm doing.
Is it indeed? And is enjoyment the right word to use?
Obviously,
No.
initially, like obviously, say if it's the cold plunge, I'm not going to pretend that it's like, oh my god, it's so much fun going into ice cold water. But how I feel afterwards, for me, if I train hard, like you see these professional athletes like doing it,
Mm,
and they use their body all the time, they can't be getting injured. Some of them footballers, they'd lose millions, and they do it for a reason. It helps with inflammation, but also
okay.
mentally, there's a lot of studies that show, you know, it helps with your moods. It's almost like it
Yeah, yeah, it helps with anxiety. I've been taking cold showers, but that's as good as that's it.
that's fine.
And I live near the sea, so I could get in the sea practically every day, but I choose not to because no, I ain't doing it. No,
Fair enough.
I like warm sea, and I have to have Caribbean sun,
Yeah,
beating
yeah.
down on me. So
That's why I do it in the sauna place. So rather than just like in
okay,
my garden, like I do that, and then I can go in the sauna, can have the heat as well. So it's like best of both.
okay.
Because I don't want to be freezing. Like it's just for the time being. Like it's just for that moment, and then that's it.
So Cairo, what brings you joy?
What brings me joy? I think just yeah, laughing. Yeah, like being kind to other people, seeing people be kind to each other, because I
Mm,
feel like just across all of my life, it doesn't matter what chapter of my life I'm in, I think I've seen some really dark sides of like people or humanity, and I've also seen like some of the best things in just being kind and thinking a little
mm,
bit less about ego, and just coming from like a place of love, and just realizing that yeah, I think that those things make me happy. Also, because I am a
mm,
creative, just things where you just see people's talent, like a live show, whether it's like people just jamming with music or it's a full on performance, or
yeah.
a song. Those sort of things bring me a lot of joy, and the sunshine. I love the sun. Like as soon as it gets sun, I'm in got my cancel my plans, reschedule. I'm in that garden, and if it's in the UK, if it's abroad, it's different. But yeah, the sun.
Oh my goodness me! So you're going to make the most of the rest of the summer, I hope.
Yeah,
Please, goodness,
I do.
let's have
Whatever
some
is
sun.
available, I take every bit. Take the opportunity while it's there.
So there will be people listening to this who have learned a lot, but there will also be people listening to this where your story really resonates with them. What advice would you give to anybody who's listening to this who, is trying to take a little bit of hope from what you've been saying?
Just that you have to be hopeful. Like you can't listen to outside voices, whether like it doesn't matter who it's from, whether it's like nearby family members or it's crazy things going on in
Mm,
society. Like you have to, like whenever I have to make a big decision about anything, I have to
mm,
look within. You have to listen to the inner voice, um, and you have to give yourself permission to be happy, and to, if you're going to go for anything in life, then I always say you got to go for it wholeheartedly.
mm,
That's the way that I try to live now, rather than getting caught up on little things. It's like, if sometimes you just need to shake it off, you need to reset.
mm,
And for me now, like the older I get, I think really emphasizing looking after yourself and really thinking about self-care. It's not selfish. um, it's important, and you're going to be able to give so much more if you do that. But yeah, just listen to your that inner voice is what I would say mostly.
oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much. What do you have hopes for the future? Well, I know you do. What are your hopes for the future? Either for you, speak for yourself, or generally around, you know, the world, or I don't know, trans rights or anything. What are your hopes? I mean, you can
Yeah.
say world peace if you want.
No, I think like like within my career, it's very open minded. Like I had a meeting with my tutor the other day, and like it's weird because it's like I'm in my 30s, and it's like, what do you want to be when you grow up and you graduate? I'm like, I don't know. So there's an element of surrendering as to what direction my career will take me. But
Yeah,
I'm happy with where I'm at, and if I see something that resonates, I just go for it.
love
I
that.
think in the world at large, I think we're we're kind of in a very weird place. You know, at the moment, like there's a lot of racism in the air. There's just a lot of um, divide, and I think
Yeah.
for me, I would like people to be heard. I would like things to um, I guess, like, I mean, I don't really. I'd like the government to be more accountable for a lot of things, but I think
Yeah.
in terms of us as people, you
Yeah.
know, thinking deeper, like sometimes don't just like regurgitate what you hear or don't believe everything you read in the media. I would like to live in a world where we can actually have differences because it's impossible to be exactly the same on it, and then we
Mm.
want variety. I think that's something we should strive to have.
Yeah.
But also having more compassion. I would like the world to be much more compassionate because
Yeah.
it's really mental right now.
It,
And it causes
it
so
is
much
bonkers.
upsets, and it doesn't matter. Like people, I don't know, like you just see so many things online. It's just like there's a lot of there's just so many different things. It's like on the politics side, it's crazy. There's this
Mm.
whole world online that feels like it's driven by ego and fake
Mm.
self, fake image.
Mm.
So I think
Mm.
kind of coming back to everyone's like self at a core level would help
Mm.
a lot of these things. And again, going back to that kind of compassion and just thinking, how would you feel if you were in someone else's shoes? Like it's like an old concept now that I feel like doesn't really get thought about a lot. And giving people a space to talk, you know, that's also
Yeah.
important. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot. Could be so
Yeah, no,
really.
I mean, it's a huge question,
Is it
and I did drop you in it, and I won't apologise for that because I loved your answer. Let's lighten it up. Which tune instantly makes you want to dance?
I was listening to some of my like old school garage songs in the morning. I like that. I can't remember in the
Yes!
morning. It's just like got that good little rhythm. That makes me happy.
You're looking at a
Like
dancer.
feels
Are you gonna put it on after we finish?
I can't remember the artist's name, but yeah, no, it makes me happy. You know, it makes me think of the sun. It makes me feel like it's a new day. There's so many different
Yeah,
possibilities, and it's like
lovely.
vibes. So.
Cairo, you've been wonderful. Thank you so much for your honesty and for your time and your laughter and your giggles and your advice. Yeah, thank you for sharing your story with us. If people want to reach out to you or want to connect with you in some way, where do you hang out? Not, I mean, they're not going to stalk you. I mean, online. Sorry.
I can't tell you that we're hanging out in real life. Online, basically, I don't do Twitter or X, whatever that is. It's like, nope, stay away from there. So really,
Mm,
my online presence really, I mean, I tried to make LinkedIn. I sort of am on there. If you find me, I'm on Cairo Nevitt. If you want to find me on there, I am going to try
okay.
and be more intentional about LinkedIn. But I'm mostly on Instagram because that's just where I started,
Mm,
which is at Cairo_Leon. Um,
cool.
and I am on YouTube. I've not posted a video for years, but some of my earlier sort of vlogs are on there for people that maybe just
Yeah.
want to know more about like my transition journey. Um, so yeah, that's
And you were in a TV show, weren't you?
yeah.
That's kind of where I went my deep dive. What was it called?
So I was on a Channel 4 documentary series called The Making of Me. Um,
That's it.
and I don't know if it's on there now, but at points it does.
No, but there are snippets on there. Trust me, I found them.
She's done a lot of research.
I enjoyed it. Okay, good. Well, Instagram mostly, a little bit on
Instagram,
YouTube, but I will put all of your links into the show notes anyway. I just want to say thank you so much, Cairo. It's been an absolute pleasure.
thank you, thank you.
Well, I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode. I am so thankful to Cairo for taking the time to talk with me, to speak with me, and to share his experience of being a trans man and what menopause has meant to him. I was particularly interested and thrilled to hear about the support he has around him, about his friends and his sisters and his wonderful mother, who he can now finally share his thoughts and experiences about menopause with as well. Um, This episode just goes to show you, if you didn't already know, that menopause is not only not one size that fits all, but also that it's something that affects everybody who has ovaries. So, when we talk about menopause, and we talk about menopause particularly in Menopause Awareness Month, which is this month, October, as I'm speaking to you, um, it's important that we understand that there is a breadth of experience out there, and that the only way we can help people to feel less alone is to share as many stories, as many different varied stories as is humanly possible. You probably heard that we recorded that episode during the summer. It was just at the end of the summer, and we were experiencing some difficult times in the UK. And I know that both Cairo and I had a conversation just before we started recording. But I just want to emphasize that, we were both safe, and that I appreciate that he still managed to find some time to sit down and talk with me, despite how we were feeling about what was going on in the UK with, far right threats and riots and protests and all the things that were happening at the time. So thank you for that, Cairo. If this story resonated with you in particular, or if you know someone with whom it may resonate, please share this episode on your WhatsApp groups, on your platforms. If you are someone who's been affected by a similar story to Kairos, if you're a trans man, or if you're trans human in particular, then there are places, particularly on Instagram and on socials, that you can connect with. Particularly, I'm thinking of the Black Trans Hub. I was thinking of another Black Trans specific, I think it was a foundation, but they've recently, unfortunately, had their funding cut, which is awful because, there are people who need their help. But certainly follow the Black Trans Hub, and also follow Cairo at Cairo_Leon on Instagram. What else do I have to tell you? Oh yeah, I started talking about the fact that I'm an author. I have a book. I have my first children's book, Grandma's Locks, about the story of um, a grandma, me, and my grandson. And it's basically about uplifting our hair, uplifting African diasporic hair. Um, it's a beautiful poem that I wrote quite a few years ago now, but we have brought it to life with Tate Publishing and a wonderful illustrator called Camilla Rue. And it will drop on the 24th of October this year. So if you are in the market for hearing a story about African hair, about African diasporic hair, or if you just want a beautifully illustrated children's book for age 5 to 7, or you want to buy it for yourself, because as adults, we don't read enough children's books or have them read to us. I recently read my book, an excerpt from my book, to a room full of adults at Hastings Book Festival, and they loved it. So if you're interested in that, pre-orders really matter, particularly to authors from marginalised communities. Please pre-order it and share my wonderful news. It's very exciting. It remains for me to say that we have a brand new website, menopausewhilstblack.com. Yes, that news has been a long time coming. We've had a busy summer and we've moved over. If you Google Karen Arthur, you'll still come up with various pieces of information. But the main piece is that menopausewhilstblack.com is up and running, and that the Joy Retreat Barbados doors are open. So they opened last Friday. We already have one person on board. The Joy Retreat Barbados it's a retreat that I hold, obviously, in Barbados for 10 Black women in any stage of menopause. If you want to find out more about it, you can go onto my website, menopausewhilstblack.com. But also, you can follow us on the.joyretreat on Instagram, and also I will share some stuff on menopausewhilstblack.com. Or you can email me at hello@menopausewhilstblack.com. Lots of .coms flying about here. Thank goodness I remembered them. We go on the 28th of April to the 5th of May, 2025. And I would love, love, love for you to join us, because it has 5-star reviews from the 10 women who went with us in 2023. And all of them have expressed delight, not only that I'm running a new cohort, but also some of them want to come as well along again. So you never know. I might see some old faces next year. That's me. That's me. I am off to London now. I am going to speak at an event, and I'm excited to do that. I was going to put some makeup on, but it's long putting makeup on, and I haven't packed yet. So I really need to get going. I hope that you have a wonderful day, a wonderful evening, a beautiful week. I hope you know that you are loved and you are worthy and that you are very much enough. And I hope that you're able to seek some joy wherever you find it. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Don't forget to share this episode far and wide. Share season 7, share season 6, and all the seasons in between. And if there are people who are not listening or don't know about Menopause Whilst Black, now is the time to tell them. Happy World Menopause Awareness Month. Happy Black History Month. It's also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Anybody who's raising awareness for causes that need hearing about, I'm extending a special thank you to you. Keep talking, keep listening, keep going. Take care. Be gentle with yourself, won't you? Bye.